Welcome. This is Hakim Dario, the chair of Equatorial People's Alliance. We are hosting this topic here today, this discussion, a dialogue among EPA members to address key emerging issues. The key emerging issues currently in Equatoria, in particular, and in South Sudan as a whole, is that we are approaching 2024. Supposedly, this is the year when the revitalized agreement for resolution of conflict in South Sudan will come to a conclusion through the process of elections, electing a new government. Yet, as far as we know, the revitalized agreement for resolution of conflict in South Sudan has never been implemented in full. There's no constitution in place to support the election process in 2024 at the end of December. Key benchmarks of the revitalized agreement have not been implemented. The census, for example, the constitution-making process, and various other benchmarks, including the elections law and the civic space for political parties to engage in the process of the election. So all of these benchmarks have not been completed. And then there are other emerging issues. The one on top of the list is the looming conflict, if it has not already started, the looming conflict in Tambora, where there is tension going on right now between our communities, the Azandi and the Balanda. But this is, for all intents and purposes, is a sponsored conflict by the SPLM, be it SPLM-IO or SPLM in government. Their presence has contributed to this simmering conflict. And what's important about this is that looks like is an importation of conflict. Equatoria has never been the host to conflicts, communal conflicts between our different communities that have lived in peace together with each other and coexisted for generations. We've only seen these type of conflicts unfolding, these violent conflicts unfolding in Bahr al-Ghazal, in Upper Nile, and the media is inundated with the level of communal conflict that has distracted and laid many communities in Upper Nile and Bahr al-Ghazal to waste. We don't want to see that coming to Equatoria. But we know the intent. The intent is to divide and conquer Equatoria. We do not want to see a threat to our cohesion as one Equatorial nation. And what is all happening right now is that external to Equatoria, the forces of SPLM, IO, and the SPLM in government are behind this sponsored conflict in Equatoria. This is about divide and conquer. Equatoria is at risk of importing conflicts, importing the type of conflicts that take place in Upper Nile and in Bahr al-Ghazal to Equatoria. We don't want to see that. And the only way to mitigate this is for Equatoria to remain united. And so that is really the context of our discussion and dialogue here today. But more importantly, let me also just highlight some of the key topics, some of the key themes that we want to share among ourselves. And hopefully this will also be inclusive in the sense that we want this to share this message with our audience, the public in Equatoria and in all of South Sudan. So apart from the SPLM-sponsored conflict in Tambora to divide and conquer Equatoria social fabric, there is also another important issue, which is 2024 Equatoria and SPLM. Equatoria and SPLM in 2024, end of 2024 to be precise. The consequences of Kiir returning to power by a rigged election. What will be the consequences of that? That's another topic that we wanted to talk about. And the third dimension is that of Equatoria's existential struggle. In all of this, if you look at this alignment of topics, of themes, first, SPLM is sponsored conflict in Tambora to divide and conquer Equatoria's social fabric. Second, 2024, Equatoria and SPLM, consequences of Kiir returning to power by rigged elections. And third, and finally, Equatoria's existential struggle. So you can see that these topics are in alignment. They follow one another, and they broadly fit with the theme of Equatoria's existential threat and the struggle of Equatoria against existential threat. So with me here today, Margaret Akulia, and sister Dr. Alma Etore, and brother Aiko Wani, and James will follow and join us later. Perhaps maybe even Daniel Soro will probably join us later. So this is your panel for today, and I would begin with just really very brief introductory remarks by each of the panelists in this discussion. And so we'll go round, just maybe give yourself 1 or 2 minutes to give a quick overview of what's your take in brief on this, and maybe introduce the the dimension that you think to be really centric to this dialogue of EPA, with a view, of course, to impart all of this to our audiences. So I'll start with Alma. If you want to just maybe say a few words for our audiences who will listen to this later on. Welcome, Alma.
Thank you, Dr. Hakim, and all the panelists here, and all the people who are listening. The problems that we are facing as Equatorians is quite large. We know that it's it's just an inundating sort of problems, but this is life, and we have got to tackle them. So as mentioned, we are going to talk about 3 different dimensions, which is first, the problems occurring in Western Equatoria between the Azande community and the Balanda, as is portrayed. And then the other thing is the problem. The second thing is the problem. Let me just write it down so that I can concentrate on them. The existential threat occurring in Equatoria. And then the third thing is about the president's trying to legalize his position, using a sort of like fake elections. I think I got it right, isn't it, Hakim?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. When people look at it, they will see it as if it's not, it's not linked, but the 3 are linked. The one leads to the other, or they all have got, they have got the same root causes. So I will start with the existential threat.
Yeah, but before you start, we just wanted you to have your first 2 minutes to introduce, like you have just done, and then we pass the mic to Margaret and to Aiko, and then before we start. If you just want to conclude your small introductory remark, and then we can move to Aquila as well.
Yeah. Okay. So the problem which is occurring in Western Equatoria as Dr. Hakim has said, is not what we see. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, actually the problem which is occurring in Western Equatoria is exactly the same problem which is occurring in the whole of South Sudan, mainly in Upper Nile and Bahr al-Ghazal, and also in Central Equatoria. There are players behind the scene, and we'll talk about it in length. And then the problem about the existential threat of Equatorians is also linked, because what we are seeing today is we are seeing the erosion of the power of the people of the land in Equatoria. So little by little, they're chipping away the powers of the people. So by either displacing them or killing the leaders, we have seen the killing of chiefs in all the three Equatorias, and it's a systematic thing. And then also the killing of prominent Equatorian leaders. We have seen them, or the silencing of them, putting them in prison, as in the case of Callisto. So this is an existential threat. Already our people are in refugee camps. And this is all linked. If you look at the problem in
we'll come back to that. We'll come back.
Yeah. I am just tying it. If you look at the problem in Western Equatoria, it's just the same. Or people are being sort of like displaced from their places. And then if we look at the third thing, which is the direct election, this looks like it's on course to happen. So if this happens, we have got to think about what we are going to do, either to minimize the damage which is going to happen to us as a result, because it's not in our favor that Salva Kiir is legitimized, even though it's through a fake elections. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alma. I'll move the mic or the line to Aquilia. Margaret Aquilia. Give us just a quick intro and what you think of the context and the situation that we're facing as Equatoria. Welcome, James. We'll catch up with you shortly, but let's give chance to Aquilia to chip in. Aquilia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hakim, and the panelists, Dr. Alma, Ettore, Ayeko Wani, and James Awari, and the others that are going to be joining us shortly. I just want to really say shortly, in short, that this is like a conversation. This is like a living room conversation. And we've been planning to do this for a while now, because it is absolutely important to talk about what's happening in South Sudan, actually, the territory called South Sudan right now, but especially Equatoria, because it's facing a lot of existential threat. And we'll be we'll be talking at length about that struggle that Equatoria is having right now. And so, really the most immediate issues that we're dealing with right now are the looming conflict. It's been ongoing in Tambra between the Azade and the Balanda. And in the introductory remarks, Hakim pointed out about how it's been imported, and it's by design. And these are things that we have to tackle. We can no longer keep quiet about the things that are happening there. By design, they are imported to create conflict and to bring about division in Equatoria, and to really just basically divide the social fabric further. But we will delve into details as we continue with this program. I just wanted to invite everybody to listen and to ask questions. And this is the beginning of a conversational program that we encourage everyone to be involved in, to become involved in, so that we're not keeping quiet, so that we're naming problems for what they are. So I'll end here for now. It's a brief introduction, but we're going to delve deeper into the three themes that Dr. Hakim has talked about and that Dr. Alma touched on. So I'll end here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Akulia. Welcome, James, and welcome, Rafaela, also. Just before I pass the mic to Aiko, just for your benefit, we have introduced the subject of, or rather the themes of our panel discussion here today. Obviously, we want to reach out with our voices to our people, the audiences in Equatoria, and of course, elsewhere in South Sudan. The key issues that we try to focus our attention here today are, the first is the conflict, the looming conflict in Tambura. We're asking ourselves the question, and it is Equatoria starting to fragment? It looks like this is an imported conflict. Equatoria never saw this kind of conflict simmering and emerging in the land of Equatoria between any of our communities. So are we beginning to copy the model of Upper Nile and Bahr Ghazal? So that is the other pressing issue now in Tambura. This is not the first time that we have seen this conflict coming on and off since last year. But we'll look at how this is threat, how this forms a threat to Equatoria's cohesion. The second item on the agenda is going to be about the rigged elections in South Sudan, which will bring Salva Kiir to power. It looks like the elections is going to be rigged because none of the key provisions of the revitalized agreement have successfully been implemented. There is no constitution on the basis of which elections would be based. And still, those in power want to proceed with the elections. And this will obviously be elections to claim legitimacy from the people. So what would be the consequences of returning Kiir to power, given his track record in the last 13 years or so in power that have devastated the country, have made the country unlivable, and also fiercely plundered the resources of the country. How about if Kiir is reinstalled as the leader of the country beyond 2024? So those are the pressing questions. And then the third question is about Equatoria's existential struggle. What do all of this mean to us? If Kiir comes back to power in 2024, what would be the consequences for Equatoria? So those are some of the themes that we thought we could share our thoughts and reflections upon during these panel discussions for the benefit of the public. So I'll pass the mic to Aiko. Welcome, Aiko. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Hakim, Sister Margaret, Sister Alma, Brother James, Rafaela is also with us here. My brothers, fellow Equatorians, and if there are South Sudanese also who will be watching these videos with us, I just want to remind my brothers Equatorians, Equatoria is not South Sudan. Equatoria is not South Sudan. Put this in your conscious part of the mind. If we dive back in history, we'll uncover it ourselves. What we're seeing today in South Sudan is destruction of what we call Equatoria. And never buy anything called nationalism, never buy any phrase called patriotism. These are scammy games that the government in Sudan, South Sudan is playing. And brothers, keep yourselves with us and follow us and see what you can hear from us soon. Thank you, Dr. Hakim.
Thank you, brother Aiko. welcome يا جيمس حضورك وإن شاء الله برضو الأخ دانيال إن شاء الله يصل لنا هنا. كان عندك مقدمة بسيط كده عاوز تقدمه كالعادة، يعني تفضل. ودي طبعا اليوم يعني حتكون في حوار داخلي، يعني حوار بتاعت EPA to EPA and of course حوار بتاعت EPA to Equatoria and to the rest of the country. دي الموضوع الأساسي يعني. وإحنا عندنا 3 أركان للنقاش أو يعني للحوار، اللي هو الاسم شنو الدايمنشن الأول. الركن الأول من الكلام ده إحنا هنتكلم عن التطورات الحاصلة في طنبرة والخطر الناجم من مثلا إشكالية بتاعت أو communal conflict الحاصلة هناك. وده ما حاجة يعني قبل كده حصل في الاستوائية. دي حاجة عادية جدا في البحر الغزال وفي أبر نايل، لكن دي وافد حصل بالنسبة لنا في الاستوائية، ودي هتبقى خطر للنسيج الاجتماعي بالاستوائي، لأنه إحنا ما يعني we haven't gone through the experience، يعني التجربة بتاعت الكوميونال كونفليكت بهذا المستوى. وإحنا يعني نشوف إنه في لعبات في القصة دي، وفي يد خفية، يد بتاعت SPLM. خليك من انه دي SPLM in government ولا SPLM في in opposition. it is sponsored by them، يعني شفت كيف؟ فدي مدخل احنا هنتطرق له بعدين ان شاء الله. والمدخل الثاني هو مدخل بتاعت يعني ال 2024 ده. سلفا كير عاوز يرجع للسلطه. ما تداعيات بتاعت العوده بتاعت سلفا كير للسلطه في 2024 او 2025 بالنسبة للاستوائية. الخطر شنو؟ احنا عارفين انه سلفا كير خلال العقد الفائت يعني 10 سنوات المضت، يعني هو شفنا الفوضى في جنوب السودان، شفنا الفساد، التشري بتاعت الفساد والقمع والقتل وعدم تواجد بتاعت قانون، يعني there is no law in the country. وفي طبعا تشريد لأهلنا وما إلى ذلك. وفي مجازر تمت ضد حق الشعب الاستوائي في كجوكيجي لوكيلر والحتات دي كلها، دي في ظل بتاع قيادة بتاع سلفا كير. طيب احنا عاوزين نعيده تاني، عاوزين نعيد سلفا كير للسده بتاعت السلطة. ده السؤال، والسؤال ده مهم جدا يعني. وتداعيات بتاعت عودة بتاع سلفا كير للسلطة هتبقى ايه؟ الكونسنس هيتمخض منه شو يعني في الاستوائية بعدين. سو دي بعض القضايا اللي احنا عاوزين نتكلم فيها، وان شاء الله الاخ دانيال بعدين يجينا برضه عشان يقدر يعني يقدم بصورة مبسطة، يقدم الافكار ده والحوار ده يبسطها علينا للجمهور بتاعتنا في الاستوائية. فيتفضل يا اخي جيمس في دقيقة ودقيقتين كده، دي نبذة بسيطة كده وشعورك، وبعد ذاك هنخش في المواضيع ذاتها. اتفضل.
شكرا جزيلا الدكتور حكيم دار. صراحة حييك وأحيي أعضاء إيبا، أستاذة أيكو، الدكتورة علمة، والدكتورة ماجريت، والسيدة أستاذة رافائيل، وكل الناس رافائيلا، كل الناس اللي بيجي يحضروا معنا فيما بعد. برضو أحيي أبناء جنوب السودان والاستوائيين in particular بصفة خاصة، ونحن بنخاطبهم للحاجات اللي قاعد تحصل في بلدنا، وبقت هي حالات أرجنت تحتاج أنه الناس تقيف عندها، بالذات المحور بتاع الأحداث الأخيرة في طنبرة في منطقة غرب الاستوائية، اللي هو الخروقات المجتمعية، اللي هو الناس بتتشاكل مع بعض، ودي ثقافة جديدة ما كانت موجودة في المنطقة الاستوائية. اوف كورس هي مبنية على شنو؟ على ممارسة سياسة تفرق، تسد بين المجتمعات عشان يحققوا بعض الأجندة السياسية. وده جاء وقت نداء لكل أبناء الاستوائية نحن نكون حريصين لإشكاليات أو مشاكل زي دي، لأنه هي مصدرة من جهات كنا نحن بنسمع بها بتحصل في مناطق أخرى في جنوب السودان. أوف كورس نحن ما بنأيد الحاجات دي في أي محل آخر، لكن طالما وصلتنا هناك وكانت موجودة ما موجودة نحن لازم نديها اهتمام. المحور الثاني قضايا
يا جيمس.
سامعنا دكتور حكيم؟
لا كان صوتك كده شوية وقف، ما سمعنا كلام بالطبع في الفترة الأخيرة.
يبدو أنه أنا
بس كويس.
الناس قاعدين يضربوا لي في التلفون.
معلش، تفضل جيمس.
صوت واضح يا دكتور؟
هسه بقت واضحة، صوتي واضح.
كده واضح؟
واضح يعني، واضح واصل.
يا المحور الثاني اللي هو الانتخابات الدارين يعملوها دي، وكلنا عارفينها هي بتفتقد لأسس كثيرة واضحة. نحن از كاتوريان نحطها في الاعتبار. وبعد ذاك برضه في سؤال ويحتاج لإجابة بالنسبة لنا كلنا، اللي هو في حالة أن نجاح مجموعة J1 وجو تاني في السلطة، نحن وضعنا كاستوائيين حيكون شنو؟ وده دار تكامل بتاع جهود، وإن شاء الله نحن حنتكلم بعد شوية في الحاجات دي كلها بطريقة مفصلة. مشكور كثير دكتور حكيم دار.
شكرا أخي جيمس. Thank you so much for your quick brief there and intro. Rafaela, Sister Rafaela, you're most welcome. And I hope you have listened to what I said earlier and also what James has given in his account and his narrative, the brief narrative. So if you would like to share a narrative of you want to share your narrative just briefly before we enter into our dialogue. So اتفضلي لغة رفايلة.
أهلا وسهلا، تحياتي لجميع الأفراد الموجودين في منصة. أنا بحييكم من كل قلبي باجتماعنا هذا. أنا شفت هنا موضوع الثلاثة اللي إحنا هنجي نتحدث عنه النهاردة. The first one is really more concerned about the election. What happened if Kiir is being re-elected? Kiir is seeking re-election by all means just to legitimize his presence in power and strengthen his grip on everything they have now and even extend it to be more vigorous. So the legitimacy will come at the expenses of equatorial existence, which is very bad for us. And I think up to now, some of our Equatorians are still naive. Instead of focusing on what our future will be like if Kiir is to come in power, but instead they are increasing widely on division among ourselves, which is not good at all. And the most recent incident that was happening in Yambio or in Tumbura is one of the examples of their divide and rule. And now IO is chipping in to help Salva Kiir to stay in power. You know, what is happening in Yambio is Machar has an upper hand on it, because you can hear now between IO and the native people down there. IO is being led by Futio, and then Azande have no any representative. They are standing there by themselves. There is no IG there. But what Kiir and Machar are doing now, Machar is the offender. And then now they're pretending to send the IG troops in to rescue the situation there. But for me, sending this troops there is actually going to worsen everything, because these two are partners in the government. And then it's the Azande who are going to suffer most, because these two are working together with the Balanda. Now the rift is going to be more than ever before. And we don't want that to happen. I don't know what EPA's stand in this situation.
Thank you.
We have our Arrow boys there. Are they really strong enough to stand up to defend these two bullies?
Thank you, Rafaela. That is the summary of narratives from all of you. So let's get started on the first theme of our dialogue and discussion here today, which is what is happening in Tambor. And the question that comes to mind, السؤال اللي بيطرح نفسه هو إنه is Equatoria starting to fragment itself, like what we have seen unfolding in Upper Nile, for example, the communal conflicts in Upper Nile between the Nuer and the Murle, and the Murle and the Dinkabor. And on many occasions, we saw the Murle being the subject of attack by both the Dinkabor and Lao Nuer, for example. So these conflicts have been going on and off, and also between the Cholo and the Nuer at times, and between the Cholo and the Jeng and so on. So these conflicts, Upper Nile has been the scene of these ongoing conflicts. And then if you return to Bahr Ghazal, you see that communities, for example, the Ngok Dinka of BA, fighting the Dinka of Duk, I think, is it, or a number of other communities there. Apuk fighting with other neighboring Dinka communities and so on. And in the area of the Lakes State, there have been, violent conflicts in which thousands, hundreds of lives have been lost. So it has remained something alien to Equatoria, that these conflicts, the nature of these conflicts are far, far away from Equatoria, right? We don't see these kind of conflicts. We don't see these kind of conflicts in Equatoria for many, many generations. And then now, all of a sudden, we begin to realize that a conflict is emerging in Tombora. And this conflict is emerging between people who have lived together, intermarried, and peacefully coexisted with each other for many, many generations. And then now, all of a sudden, we see that there's now an element of violent conflict is starting to emerge in Tombora. And we strongly believe that this is a sponsored conflict. It's SPLM is sponsored conflict, and is trying to exploit local conditions and to divide and conquer the people of Equatoria, and the consequences of that, of course, for our social cohesion as Equatoria, as one nation. So this has been the question that we've been asking to ourselves. Is Equatoria starting to fragment itself, like what we've seen unfolding in Upper Nile and Bahr Ghazal for many years? This is obviously unprecedented in Equatoria. So is this the beginning of imported Equatoria's fragmentation? Where is this going? And where is this going to end? Then who stands to benefit from this conflict? Who stands to lose? This is, for all intents and purposes, is a very dangerous threat to Equatoria's cohesion and internal front, because we have not seen this kind of internal front in Equatoria fragmenting The Azandi and Balanda have never fragmented themselves this far. So if this happens in Equatoria today, what will be the implication of that to the rest of Equatoria? It is putting the identity of Equatoria at risk, and it is also fragmenting the identity of Equatoria as one people, as one nation. That is what this conflict is threatening. We cannot therefore stand and watch this conflict unfold and doing nothing about it. So from the position of EPA, we want to make it very clear. Equatoria must unite. Equatoria must unite to prevent importing of fragmentation to Equatoria. Equatoria must unite to prevent Equatoria being turned into Bahar Ghazal or Upper Nile, into feuding communities, one against the other. We are Equatorial nation. We are one people. We are one nation. We are one Equatoria. That is the message we want to send to our people in Tambora and elsewhere in Equatoria, that we cannot stand with our hands folded. We have to do something about it. Miracles cannot happen without our involvement. So all of Equatoria have to be united. All of Equatoria, through the APA and through other the endeavors of people of goodwill, should work to ensure that the opportunity for IO and for SPLM in government to divide our people and conquer them fail. That Equatoria will emerge a winner in this. So ده القضية الأساسية، إنه إحنا عاوزين نشوف إنه الاستوائية تعيش بسلام وبدون تفكك في النسيج الاجتماعي بتاعتنا، لأنه المشكلة ده يعني الخلافات دي والصراعات القبلية which are imported into Equatoria will destabilize our fabric, will cause immense damage to our identity as Equatorians and also to our identity as one nation. لأنه بمجرد ما يحصل تفكك يعني ما حنقدر نقيف كدولة يعني كشعب واحد موحد زي ما أجدادنا كانوا وقفوا، وحتكون بقى في تطورات جديدة وبتكون في يعني interference بالوضع الاجتماعي في الاستوائية، وهتكون في حزات في النسيج الاجتماعي بتاعتنا، وده ما طبعا ما في مصلحة بالنسبة للاستوائية، ده ما بيخدم مصلحة بتاعت الاستوائية العليا. فأنا بكتفي بهذا القدر. I'll give the opportunity to Alma to come back on this topic. And let's hear you, Alma. What's your take on this? Hello, Sister Alma.
Oh, sorry, I was talking while my mic was on mute. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hakim. I'd like to thank all the panelists here who are definitely going to contribute to this very important topic. A lot of things which will give us food for thought. I was just thinking about this conflict in Tambora, which is the second time round. So this is the second round of conflict. It has been simmering for some time. I will just give you a small background about this conflict in Tambora. What happened was that about 300 years ago or something like that, the Balanda, who originally come from West Africa, settled in Bahr al-Ghazal. But after the Arab slave trade started, many of them were taken as slaves. Therefore, they started running away from those slave traders, Arab slave traders. And because Tambora at the time was very, very well protected by the Azande kings, and they had a lot of conflict with the Arab slave traders, because the Azande kings were trying to expand into Western Bahr al-Ghazal, and they actually did, because our people are there. As I said, my mom is actually one of those people from the Azande kingdom who have gone into Wow, and went all the way up to Demziver and so on, and they set themselves there, and this is called the the clan, because there are different clans, but there is the Abandia clan, which is direct descendants of the Azande kings. So this is how it was. So the Balanda ran across to the territory of the Zande kingdom for protection. So our king said, okay, you are our people, welcome. So they protected them. But at the same time, while protecting them, they can't just be sitting and doing nothing. So they employed them, because the Balanda were very good at making bows and arrows. So they started making bows and arrows for the king. And after some time, they started also getting other skills, like going and getting honey and things like that for the kingdom. And nowadays, the Balanda are saying that they were abused by those kings. Well, if you want protection, for example, now I came all the way from South Sudan to this country, and they are protecting me and everything. Will I say, oh, I am not going to work because I have come from there? No, I have got to work because they are protecting me and everything. I have got to do what I have got to do, as my duty. So the kings might have been harsh. I don't know. It might be, because at that time there was no human rights and things like that. And they are vulnerable people. Most probably, yes, they might have been exploited to a certain extent, but they had the protection of our kings. And then after some time, then they started, as time went on, they started learning the language, the culture, everything. And people started getting together. They started marrying from them, and they marrying from us. And people, became one. And as you see nowadays, there is no difference. But the place called Najero, which is between Tombora and Wow, actually belongs to the Azande kingdom, even from its name Najero. It's to do with a tree or something, like trees here, something like that. So Najero is part of our Azande kingdom, but it was given to the Balanda because the kings were saying, the chiefs and the kings were saying, these people, we haven't seen anything bad from them. We have lived with them. We have become in-laws and so on. So they gave them that area. They said, you can stay in that area and do whatever you want to do, plant it and so on and so forth.
Yeah, just a question, a quick question, which might help listeners and who will come and listen to this. So is there, for example, is the establishment or revival of the Azande kingdom the reason why there is conflict? That, for example, that the Azande kingdom in the past has probably, like you said, maybe exploited or, for example, abused the rights of the Balanda. Is that the reason now why there is conflict? Or is there something?
No, I am coming to it. I am coming to it, Dr. Hakim.
Okay, cool.
So these people, what I said is that now they are trying to find ways to sort of like throw mud or to sling mud on the kings. What it was is that the Balanda were given a job to do because they came. So they said to them, what are you good at? Of course, they are not just going to give them food and so on for nothing. They have already come into the kingdom. So the kings asked them, what's your skills? Or they saw that their skills is good in bows and arrows, so they made them, they said to them, okay, we are going to use you to do that. But then the most important thing is that they conscripted them in the army, in the army, because the kings had big armies. They were having this mode or strategy of acquiring more land, extending eastwards and southwards. Eastwards and westwards. So they made them to do these arrows and bows, and then at the same time they were recruited in the army, because this is what the strategy of the Azande kings at that time was. When they get hold of a place, or they conquer a certain place or village or whatever, they don't kill people. What they do, they take the young ones, they conscript them as soldiers, and this is how they really did well, because they never kill unless they have got to do. They never destroyed. The women, they would just take them, most probably as wives or something like that. I don't know, but they will make sure that nobody's hurt, and that everybody is living comfortably. They're getting their crops and so on. So that was how it was. So by time people became one, they started intermarrying and everything was hunky-dory until I think as early as I don't know whether it was in the 70s or 80s. Then the politicians, the Balanda politicians, got together and they said, we have been in this land for a long time. Our people have been there for hundreds of years. We don't have any sort of like county belonging to us or anything like that. So I don't know in which year Samuel Abu John decided, okay, in this case, I agree with you. Najero as a county was earmarked for the Balanda. They said this is a Balanda state. So the Balanda can go there.
You mean a Balanda county?
Yeah, a county. Yeah, Najero. But at that time, people were supposed to be at least 10,000, people living in a certain area to make it into a county. But the Balanda were not even coming to that number. They were much less than that. But just for the sake of peace, Samuel Abu John said, okay, even if they don't reach that number, let us just give it to them for the sake of peace. These people, we have lived with them for a long time. They are our people, and so on. So they were given Najero, and somehow things looked a little bit okay, at that time during the Zaman Bitat SPLM. But at that time, some of the Balanda politicians were not happy that Najero was given to them, as a place, as a county. They wanted more. So they even complained to Dr. Garam. They said, wallahi, this Tombura belongs to us and it should be given to us. The Azan, they have taken it. So the thing started from there. They wrote a letter. So Garang said to them, Ya Jama, I know the history of your land. This land belongs to the Zande. He told them point blank. He said to them, this land belongs to the Zande. How comes now you're saying to me that it belongs to you? So they were trying to, say, oh, we had our own chiefs a long time ago. Oh, Garang said, because he's a well-educated man, he knows that. So he said to them, no, this will not hold water. I'm not having this. I'm not giving a Tombura to you. So it calmed down at that time. They couldn't do anything because it was during the time Kan Bitadnas SPLM. So they were still very unhappy about it, and all their politicians and so on, they were constantly meeting. They were collecting money. They said, then in this case, if we are not going to get Tambura peacefully, we are going to get it by force. This is what they decided. So they started really preparing to attack.
What point did this then take a violent turn? I think, you know, we are now well informed about the history and everything, but what are the most critical issues and drivers that have brought this conflict now into the open recently? Last year, I remember EPA issued a statement, a press statement, to condemn the violence that was perpetrated by Futio, who failed to rein in on the conflict and allowed people to be abused and atrocities being committed. And we thought that this might have now subsided a little bit, but what
I am trying to do, I am trying to give a background to people who might not know, because now, you know, with all these problems, there are not many people who are, even from our own people, they are not well versed with this because everybody's keeping quiet. That's why maybe I am taking it a little bit long and boring for you, but I think it's very educative for other people to know, you know, the background of all these conflicts, because now what the Balanda politicians are trying to portray to their people is that they were badly treated, you know, in the past by the Azande kings. They didn't tell people how the Balanda came to be in contact with the Zande people. They didn't tell them properly, because this is what's happening now in South Sudan. They will just give you what they want to give you, and they keep back all the real issues, such as these people came across and came in contact with us because they were running away from slavery. They were running away from slave trade. And it was our people who actually defended them and kept them all these years. So this is what they are throwing back to us. It's just like you bring somebody into your house, somebody who has been thrown out by their own family, or you find them begging in the streets, you bring them in the house, you clean them up, you give them education, you give them food, shelter, everything. One day they will turn around and say, we have been abused. And of course, this is a lie, but you know, somebody from that house has got to stand up and has got to put the record straight. And to put the record straight, people have got to listen to the root cause and to the history, because unless you know the history, you will always say, oh, these people have been abused by the Azande kings. But the Azande people are people of work. هم ناس بتاعت شغل. هم ما ناس بيحبوا كسل. ناس بيحبوا شغل. So زول الكسلان ما بيقعد among them. Either you get to do something, you know, like going to the army, or doing jobs, building houses and so on and so forth. لغاية حسا عشان كده الأثر لسه فيه موجود. So I am coming now to the genesis of the problem بتاع الحصل في هنا في Western Equatoria in 2021. With this backdrop of hostilities, you know, from the politicians بتاعت Balanda, and we know them, some of them are in Juba there, هم بقى يروجوا الكلام. لكن unfortunately also, what our politicians could have done, they could have brought some people and they would have sat together and looked at their history. يا جماعة حصل كده كده كده، لأنه history ده من زمان وناس كتار ما بيعرفوا. What lies is fed to them is the only lies which they are buying. You know, they will say, oh, we have been abused. Is there proof that you have been abused? What is the abuse? Is getting honey from the forest, is it a type of abuse? It's a job to do. Is doing carving out things, you know, like furniture. Human Zande endum a lot of furniture, and the Balanda are very skillful at that. They were given that job. Is this abuse? You know, when you are made to work, is it an abuse? Abuse is when somebody kills you, tortures you, and so on. So these are some of the facts. now with this backdrop of misinformation, when Machar decided that he wants to take over the administration of Western Equatoria and Western Bahar al-Ghazal, it wasn't done sakit kida. He planned it. He planned it because he had his eyes on Western Equatoria, because Western Equatoria has got the resources. And he knew from the time of the SPLM, that this area is an area which is rich in food. You know, when you go there, you hide yourself there, you can live for years without even having to buy anything from the shops, because you can produce so much things. You know, there is a lot of things in the forest and in the ground as food that can be produced, and leave alone the teak and all the other resources that are in Western Equatoria. So he decided, you know, because with the SPLA, Kiir and Riek, SPLA IG and SPLA, SPLM IO, what they are doing, they are dividing South Sudan so that they will eat from it. That's basically what it is. So he took the two states which are neighboring to each other, and his eyes are on Tombura. So because what he did, he brought these experts in order to find out resources. So they found out that the resources are in Tombura, because it's that triangle between Tombura and Central Africa and Congo. This is where you get a lot of things. You get gold, you get, I don't know, diamonds, you get whatever. So he was given a certain report, certain as in a definite report that this area is going to yield all these things. And he thought he is going, to devise a way to get his hands on these resources. So what he did, he started thinking, because the experts said to him, we are not going to do any work because of the Arab boys. We heard that there is Arab boys there. There are some armed people, and so forth. So it's not a secure area. So he said, okay, I will secure it for you. And then basically what he did is that he started recruiting the Arab boys. They messed up the Arab boys. They recruited some of them. Some of them just became angry and went away and didn't join either the IO or IG. But most of them joined the IO, especially after 2013, I think, or 2015, 16, sorry, all these conflicts. It made our people go to the IO, because they thought Kiir is against our people, so we are going to join the IO. And this was what Riek planned for. But then Riek decided that if, these Zande people are a very difficult people to work with, he started looking at their nature, that there are people who will not leave him to do whatever he wants to do with their land. They are tricky people. So he decided, in this case, I am going to devise a way to be able to make some trouble, because he knew about the background of the troubled, not the troubled history, but actually the emerging troubles between the Azande people and the Balanda communities over Tombura. So he decided to exploit that, and he in turn started making it difficult for the Azande Ayo to stay there. So that's why people like Nando and other people, the figures started moving away from Ayo, and they switched on to IG, and many followed. So that by some time, the Balanda who are in Ayo had a bigger number than the Zande people. and the number that in IG of the Zande people have increased. So this emerged from here and went the other way and so on. So the Ayo in Western Equatoria became top heavy with Balanda soldiers. And then also Riek, what he did, he started actually recruiting anybody who's ethnically Balanda into Ayo from across the border, which is Western Equatoria, Western Bahr al-Ghazal. And he recruited other people from Fertit and so on and so forth from Bahr al-Ghazal because they have got no strong link with the Zande people. He recruited them with what he had in mind to use them to attack people in Tombora. And this culminated in the attack of the 2021 crisis that happened. It was in June, I think, June, July, when people, it was civilians sleeping in their beds. They were attacked by, Ayo in their full regalia, because I saw some of the pictures of these soldiers, up to their boots, and they had these sophisticated weapons. And not only that, they used militia from, militia that Seleka, which is from Central Africa. And also there is Seleka, a little bit of Seleka in Cameroon, I think, and Congo. They use those people, Seleka and Dembororo. Riek has signed actually an agreement with these groups. He signed an agreement with Ta'amul so that they what do you call the memorandum of understanding, MOU, between them. And he said to them, Bororo, can they listen to this? He said to them, Bororo, you can come with your cows anytime and graze your animals in Western Equatoria. Just imagine. So he said,
do we have supporting evidence for that? The memorandum of understanding.
I will try and find it out and see if somebody will get it. But it's a well-known thing that he has already signed with them an agreement to that effect. So Dembororo would come sort of like yearly and disturb our people. They will come with their cows, and their cows will run riots, and they will be also, there are skirmishes, but not very seriously, because our people are also, they are also armed and they are also well prepared. So, but there were skirmishes, and our people don't like these people. So imagine, telling somebody to come with their cows and graze them in somebody else's land that doesn't belong to him, just because he is, he has got the, idara bitat Western Equatoria. It doesn't mean that he can just go into people's land and start, wreaking havoc and destroying. So this is what happened. Now with that, when they were fighting, what has emerged is that the Balanda were very well prepared for the fight. The Zande were not at all. So they were sort of like, because the Zande always thought that.
Which fight is this? Was that the fighting that erupted?
The first one, the first crisis in 21. Yeah. The Zande were not at all prepared. They were just saying, oh, the Balanda are our people. They will never harm us. They will not hurt us and all this. So in the end, one day it just happened and they were not prepared and they died. So many people, even my own relatives died. You will get a house full of young people, children, women, elderly women, and so on, being butchered, being killed, being, trauma, a lot of trauma. Anyway, so this was what has happened. But then the Zande people also retaliated immediately. They regrouped and they retaliated, and the retaliation was really bad on the Balanda themselves. It was bad, and they had to vacate Tombora because they occupied it for about, 2-3 days, whereby they went on the rampage. broke every Azande house, burning the shops and so on and so forth. A lot of khasair. And then these people, they came retaliated, and it was bad. And then it stopped for some time. The politicians and then the church also intervened. At the same time, the church was trying to intervene, but nothing happened. Now, when you look at this conflict like that, you will think that it's a conflict between the Zande and the Balanda, but it's not. Guess what? Who was killed? The people who were killed were both. Both the Balanda and the Zande were killed by the Ayo, militia, because those Ayo militia are not actually from there. They are militia jabon min Ayo mahal. They came mostly from across, from Western Bahr al-Ghazal. These are people who don't know. They just were led there, and they told them these are Zande people, kill them. So they killed them, but many of them were Balanda. And you can see it also repeated in the people who ran to take refuge in the UN, UNIMIS. They were both exactly the same, Balanda and Zande. They ran there, and while they were there was no fighting, believe it or not. They were staying together, they were eating together and helping each other. What does it tell you? It tells you that these people had no issue with each other. The issue came from Riek Machar, because he wants these people to move away. And the same thing, they used it when they were moving people away by force, when they were trying to do the refineries there in Upper Nile. Because the people of the land were moved by force, nothing was given to them, not even a school, nothing. I saw this documentary. The same thing is repeating itself here. And the common denominator is Riek. Riek Machar is the one who's causing all these things. The good thing is that now we know, and our people can see even for themselves. Riek Machar, he brought Futio as a governor. He put Futio, and our people were not happy with that. People thought that the Zande people don't like other people. But no, he's somebody who's not educated. He's somebody who shouldn't be even employed in any office, in any government office, leave alone as a governor. But why did Riek put him there? He put him there so that he will use him in order to do what he wants to do. As a governor, he gave them the rights to go and kill people, to move them by force, and to steal. Basically what he's doing, even all the salary that NAS is not reaching them. They go and buy arms, and then they deliver it to these people who are in cantonment area, which is an illegal cantonment area in a place called Namutina, which is a big cantonment, illegal cantonment area of the Balanda. They told them to discontinue that cantonment area, but Futio is just doing his own things. He's not listening. And then there is another place called Najangere. Also, it has got a big, group of this militia, Ayo militia. They get out of there and they attack people in Tombora. This is what they are doing. So, what I want to say as sort of like a summary is that the issue, the crisis which is happening in Tombora is not one of its kind. It's the same thing which is being repeated in the whole of South Sudan. And this is because Riek Machar is the one who's causing this. On the other side, the government is looking also to benefit the IG, which has been mentioned by Dr. Hakim. They are not for the benefit of our people. They are looking also to get something out of it. So for them, this conflict is good. Why? Because it will weaken, it will destroy the fabric of the Azande people, because these are the biggest social group in Equatoria. So they want to do that. They are decimating the social group They are now pitting one against the other one, and people are killing themselves, and they are very happy to see that. As you can see, they haven't, the government has not intervened whatsoever to help. But the government is seeing it as a good sign, because once these people divide themselves like that, some of them will run to the government and they will pay allegiance to Salva Kiir. And this is something which our people have got to be very careful of. You should pay allegiance to no one, because they are exactly the same. The IO and the IG are exactly the same. Don't think that one is better than the other one. The Zande people are very strong in defending themselves. They don't need the IO, they don't need the IG. What they need is just to unite among themselves. So on the other side, one of the things which the IO is doing together with the IG is that they are also dividing the Azande people, leave alone the Balanda. They are dividing the Azande people by pitting the royal family, the royal family, which is the Avungara, against the other Azande. They call them the marginalized Zande. What is that? Is there anything called marginalized? In what? In what sense? Is it because of the jobs? These jobs are useless. The jobs are useless. One day you are the governor, the next day you are kicked out in the street. They use you and abuse you, and they use you to divide your people. So our people should refrain from looking at government jobs here, Jama, because these are things which are used to divide people. And this is what is happening now. They are saying that the Avungara are being given jobs, and the other Zande people who are in Yambio and who are in Maridi are being marginalized. And these people are just looking at those in Tombora as if they are not their brothers. They are saying, oh, you have got all the jobs, you have got everything. Now we are not going to help you. And this is what the government wants. And when I say the government is the IO and the IG together, they are doing this. Our people have got to be very, very wise. They have got to be wise. Do you need those jobs? Do you really need those jobs?
So in brief then, all that we're really saying is that the people of Western Equatoria are at the risk of being divided by the IO and by the
IG.
IG, the SPLM in government.
Yeah,
they're all SPLM. They are all SPLM.
Yeah.
An external factor. They're not like.
Yeah, they're just the same. They are carbon copy. They are two sides of the coin.
So our message then is, in terms of the recent developments, because it has been now on the media that the conflict is threatening to break out, and what could be done to address it, because like you say, what's really very important is to recognize that the external factor is the SPLM in government or SPLM in IG.
In opposition.
In opposition. They would want to play the conflict to their advantage. But this is, critical for the stability, the cohesion, and the social fabric of our people in Western Equatoria. We don't want the situation to
escalate, yeah.
Escalate. That this situation could be controlled. People should be aware that it is their expense. They will be the ones, the fodder of the conflict. And whereas the leaders, the political leaders, Riek Machar and Salva Kiir are far away from the scene. They are in Juba. They're just moving the pawns. They're moving the pawns by issuing political directions and so on. And then those of Putio and other actors locally just end up, playing out to the sentiments of division, the sentiments of being marginalized, and these are all exploitative aspects. And if, like you say, if there are for example actors who are brought into Western Equatoria to beef up the position of IO Balanda forces against the Azande, that is only to really to promote conflict, which is not going to serve the interest of the people of Western Equatoria. And it would also create, enmity, unnecessary enmity, hostilities between the people of Western Equatoria and the people of Western Bahr el Ghazal, which is
Yeah,
not.
it has already done this. It has already created enmity, because now, the people of Western Bahr el Ghazal, they came and attacked our people. They came and attacked, they looted, they took things all the way to Western Bahr el Ghazal. And people have seen them, beds, things, the content of shops.
So let's give a chance to our other panelists, colleagues, to
yeah,
share.
it's a long story, so I will stop here.
I think it's obviously there's a lot of history, and there is also a lot of what's unfolding currently, driven by mustajadat, driven by recent developments, and then what we want to focus minds on is that this conflict intensifying in Western Equatoria is un-Equatorian. That's number one. It's un-Equatorian for us to be seeing this conflict unfolding in our social fabric that has, that we have maintained for all of those generations. So that is the risk. This cannot be seen to be normal. It's not a welcome thing. It's unprecedented, and it has to be recognized as such, and we have to do something about it. That's number one. Number two is that we have to recognize that there are external forces, there are external interests, which, like Alma said, there may be something to do with the resources, with control of resources in the area, and cross-border and other relationship with external forces that would tend to give advantage to the IO, for example. So they want to invest in their presence in Western Equatoria to serve their advantage. So that dimension is there. But what we need to be fully aware of is that this is alien to the local relationships of our people, that the level of conflict has not gone this high, this far. It was always, if there was any conflict, it was always addressed through peaceful approaches, traditional ways of resolving these conflicts and so on. But now to come out in the open in the way that we see it unfolding is not good for Equatoria, and there is a threat emerging from it to the fabric of Equatoria as a whole, and it will have implications for Equatoria. So I'll stop here, and I'll give a chance to any other, Aquila or Aiko or James or Rafaela to come in. Aquila, you can have the mic.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Alma, I really, really appreciate the story, the history. I think it's very, very important to understand some of that history. And we're going to be doing the same thing for the history of Equatoria. As Alma just demonstrated, there's a lot more. There's a lot more that people need to know, about Equatoria, about the different communities, So this was really very educational. And we are going to continue telling these stories. So I appreciate you, really just giving context to the conflict that's now ongoing, that has been raging on for a while now. You see, a lot of people just look at the surface, story, and they don't know that there's a lot more, underneath. And there are reasons behind, all the things that are happening in Equatoria right now. And you're absolutely right. You see, that area of Equatoria is very, very rich in mineral resources. And the same thing is happening even in my own area. We call it Salia Musala. It's my people, of course, they are divided during the colonial period between South Sudan, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I think we share, similarities with the Azande, and there's lots of intermarriages, actually, with the Azande. I have family members who are married to Azande. So I think it's very, very important to have that history, to ground, our conversations in a history that is real, that has not been told, like this, very, very clearly, so that people understand, where these things are coming from. So I really want to thank you for that brief outline, and I'm pretty sure, we're going to have other opportunities to delve deeper into some of these histories. So basically, what is happening is, parallels everywhere, throughout that territory called South Sudan. And I will continue referring to it as a territory now, because it's totally lawless, and there's no law and order. So everybody is really having to protect themselves, having to defend themselves. And so in response to the question, that Hakim sort of gave us to really just to focus whether or not Equatoria is starting to fragment itself, like what is happening in the other parts of that territory called South Sudan, and Upper Nile and Balgazal. I think the answer to that is obvious, because yes, it's starting to fragment itself, and it's something that's completely foreign. Equatorial has never had to do the things that are happening right now, like fragmentation, conflict. I mean, you told us about the intermarriages between the Balanda and the Azande. Like it's normal throughout Equatoria. There's been lots of intermarriages. There've been no issues of conflict, and so this is new. This is completely new. It's imported, and so really it's by design, and so really basically it's meant to fragment Equatoria, and to break the social cohesion that has been Equatoria. So the people who benefit, obviously, you've talked about the so-called government, and really it's a so-called government. South Sudan does not have a government, and I really need people to understand that there's no government there. And you are right, because if there was a state, if there was a government, there would have been intervention by now. So what the lawlessness is by design. The conflict between the Azande and the Balanda is by design. So that's why Equatorians have to understand this very, very clearly. I'm hoping that this program that we've started is just going to basically educate people, so they understand, and if they have any questions, they can ask questions. So we're here to educate people, so that people understand what's really going on. So both it's a lawless cartel. I remember a few years ago I wrote an article about a lawless cartel. I'm going to dig it up, and I was talking about the SPLM. They're just a lawless cartel. They're a criminal cartel, and they're holding everybody hostage. And people have to wake up, and they need to understand that there's no protection for you. And everything that's happening is by design, and people are benefiting. The SPLA, the criminal SPLA, is benefiting from everything that they're doing, which is so lawless. They don't care. They don't care about life. All they're focusing about is how to divide the loot. And they need to be interrupted. They need to be stopped. But we can't stop them when people don't understand what's really going on. So we are hopeful, that through this program, people are going to start to understand, and the their eyes are going to be open, right? The scales are going to fall off their eyes, and they're going to see things for what they really are. I mean, these people are doing things in plain sight. They're not even hiding it anymore, but they're just pretending. And so the people on the ground, we're going to be depending on them to let us know what's really going on, because they're going to be our eyes and ears on the ground, And luckily for everyone, you know, there's lots of technology now. We don't even have to be in that lawless jungle to know what's going on. You know, so we will be coming here to report and let people know what's really actually happening so they know and they can become involved in the solution. You know, so they don't have to start paying allegiance, you know, and it's so confused paying allegiance to IO, IG, you know, and so confused. You know, it's really basically like a musical chair. You know, it's ridiculous, you know, and the world is watching. We need to let the world know what's really going on and what people are enduring. So that when they come up and defend themselves, it's about protection. It's about protection against the lawless cartel and the lawless thugs. This even has stopped being about waging war. It's about protecting yourself against the so-called national army. And there's no army. There's no army. It's just a bunch of thugs, you know, that are fighting over loot, you know, over South Sudan, dividing it up as if it's an animal that they've, you know, killed, and so they're dividing it among themselves. We need to stop this. We need to stop it, you know, and the people can stop it, you know. So that's why we need to unite. You know, you need to unite around EPA. Okay, you need to unite because EPA knows exactly what's going on, and this is why we've started this program. So you need to unite. You need to rally behind EPA. And so that we can take down that rotten, you know, criminal system together.
Perhaps,
you know,
perhaps an important point, just not to, sorry to interrupt you, an important point is that in the absence of a voice in Equatoria that rallies or people behind genuine Equatoria interest issues that affect Equatoria المصلحة العليا بتاعت الاستوائية بمعنى آخر. if we are not, there is no voice that is, you know, speaking for Equatoria, countering these divide and conquer policies, the external hands, the forces that are at play, which pit one people against the other, or one community against the other, in order for them to weaken Equatoria and then have, you know, unfettered control, unfettered access to the resources of the people of Equatoria. I think if we are not doing something about it, we're working in isolation from one another. We are not working together in concert to face up to these challenges, then these forces will be successful. بمعنى آخر إحنا كاستوائيين إذا كان ما في أي صوت بيقدم مصلحة الاستوائية ولا بيتكلم باسم بتاعت الاستوائية، كان منو هسي هيتكلم؟ يعني يشوف هسي مثلا في يعني في ريبورتس يعني جاية في الإعلام، قضايا بتثار في الإعلام وبتتكلم عن المشاكل الحاصلة في وسترن إيكوتوريا ولا سنترال إيكوتوريا، وما في حد ولا في تنظيم بيهمه القضايا دي. إذا إحنا ما منظمين كاستوائيين عشان يعني نتصدى للقضايا ده، منو حيقيف ويتكلم باسم بتاعت الاستوائية؟ معناه القضايا دي كله حاجات البلانس اللي بتساق في الكواليس، يعني بيعملوها ضد مصلحة بتاعت الاستوائية، ما في زول حيتحداهم، ما حيكون في تحدي للحاجات دي ما لما انه احنا ننظم انفسنا. فعشان كده كل بتقول انه شنو الوحده بتاعتنا كاستوائيين وحده مهمه جدا جدا. unless يعني ما لم احنا عاوزين نحفظ مصلحه بتاعت الاستوائيه ونحمي مصلحه بتاعت الاستوائيه. المصلحه بتاعت الاستوائيه فانه احنا شنو؟ احنا نكونوا عندنا هويه وبنحمي وجود بتاعتنا كاستوائيه. otherwise ما هتكون في لعبات وهكذا. So I think just briefly, what I say is that in the absence of any other force, in the absence of any other voice that stands for Equatoria, then the danger is even manifold. And EPA is one of the voices, perhaps even the only voice that has come out to stand for Equatoria, to protect and preserve the interests of the people of Equatoria. So we appeal to you, the Equatorians, to unite so that we can fill the gap, we fill the void of the voice of Equatoria. Without doing that, there will be no counter force to withstand the plans وبعدين اللي هو المصالح الأخرى المصالح بتاعت ناس ما استوائيين عاوزين يستفيدوا من استغلال بتاعت الاستواء. They want to benefit from the exploitation of Equatoria. When Equatoria is absent, when Equatoria doesn't have a voice to protect its interests. عشان كده احنا نقدم رسالة لكل الاستوائيين فانه احنا يعني ما نتجاهل القضايا المشاكل الحاصلة في Western Equatoria دي. We should not ignore these problems. These problems sit at the crossroads of Equatoria's existence or non-existence. Because today, if our people lose their social fabric in Western Equatoria, what will become of Central Equatoria tomorrow? What will become of Eastern Equatoria tomorrow? What will become of Equatoria as a whole? Those are the questions, and we should be asking these questions. ده الأسئلة اللي احنا المفروض نطرحها. وده الأسئلة اللي احنا يعني لازم نطرحها. في المدخل الجاي إن شاء الله هنتطرق لقضية بتاعت السؤال ذاته. التداعيات شنو؟ What are the consequences for Equatoria in Salva Kiir continuing to be in power in 2025, for example? Kulia, you're welcome. You can wrap up there so that you pass the mic to Aiko, and we'll
let me just, Dr. Hakim.
Yes, go ahead.
Let me add something on that. Just wanted to add something on what Dr. Hakim and Akolia and Alma started before. This is what I define mostly as destruction of Equatoria. This government in South Sudan, actually, the intent is to destroy Equatoria. Now, if we can look at the bigger picture, especially the two communities of the Azande and the Balanda, we look at really the bigger picture. And in looking at that bigger picture, we should take the IO out and take the IG out. You'll find it's the same community, the two communities which will ever exist and will always exist in that territory. So we should look at the bigger picture. Their interest is not really important that we as Equatorians should start beating each other and create animosity between us just because they want the resources in Equatoria. So these people, their target is to destroy Equatoria, and they're destroying it in different forms. And this is one of the ways. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ayeko. Yes, you're absolutely right. And Dr. Hakim, you're right. I think it's absolutely important for us to see these things for what they really are, because I don't think people have really woken up to see what's really going on. And it's absolutely important to unite, for Equatoria to unite. And it's absolutely important, to understand that this conflict is by design and it has been imported into Equatoria, and it's a strange thing that has never happened in Equatoria before. So people need to wake up and inform ourselves about what's really going on. So I really want to conclude here so that I can pass the mic back to Ayeko. And then the rest of the panelists to have their say, but EPA is here, and the intention is to destroy Equatoria, as Ayeko said, and the intention is to divide and conquer and destroy our social fabric. So I will pass the mic on to Ayeko, and maybe I'll come back later. If not, there'll be another session as well of this. Thank you, Ayeko. The mic is yours.
Thank you, Sister Hakolia, and the rest of the panel, Dr. Hakim. Yeah, my message goes back now to Equatorians, my fellow brothers and sisters. South Sudan is not your country. Whether you like it or you don't like it, this is the truth. The truth is that country, since its inception in 2011, or if we go back since the CPA was signed in 2005 and to date, you've never found that country that Equatorians have been brought down to sit down and have a decision of where the destiny of that country is to go. We've been always been subjected to be beggars. You go and beg for a position. If you're given the position of governorship, then your job is to do what they want you to do or what they tell you to do. You fail to do what they want you to do, you're kicked out, someone is brought in who can execute their own programs. Now, when you look deeper, the SPLM itself, as John Garang was preaching it, is not the SPLM that Kiir has now. John Garang was much more of a broader thinker and much more of a person who understands the entities of South Sudan as a whole and the implication of Equatoria as part of South Sudan itself. He knows it. And his message is such as, let's take towns to the villages, because he knew by this, at least, it will make Equatorians to look down and feel comfortable in their region. Now, we Equatorians, if we dive back into our history, we've never lived together with the Upper Islands or Bahar Ghazalia. And that's period. The only brief period that we've lived together with these guys was during the High Executive Council, 1972 to 1983. When we fought the Anyanya One, when the rebellion started in Torrid, we fought it, South Sudan, the whole South Sudan, including Equatorial, we fought it as a regional conflict. Equatorial was fighting it separate. The people of Panay were fighting it separate from Equatorial. There was no joint command that made us fight it as a movement for the whole South Sudan, but we're fighting it on a regional basis. Now, Addis Ababa brought that conflict to a halt. And when you analyze the Addis Ababa agreement, the way I look at it is actually bringing the Dinkas to Equatoria. And their presence with us for the 11 years in Equatoria, we got fed up of them. Their way of life, don't match ours. Their way of administering the country or the regional autonomy, we don't like it. And that's why Equatorians went for decentralizing the South. Then sparked the 83 rebellion of the SPLM, went to the bush again. Now they are back with the same behaviors, same players, and same games. And they're forgotten what happened then in 1983. And for us to expect that things will go like this for good, Equatoria will never stand, that will be a dream. Equatoria is going to fight back. Whether it's now, tomorrow, next year, after 5 years, after 10 years, Equatoria is going to fight back. And for the other South Sudanese who are non-Equatorians, this message should be clear to you. Equatoria is going to fight back. We don't like that system. A system loaded with crooks whose eye are on stealing the resources of the country. There is nothing that they can do. We have roads there that were built since 1899, are not even renovated today. Remoteness is 100% in South Sudan. And you expect a country like that can develop. And you're stealing the resources, you're stealing the money, and where do you take them? To East Africa. And I want to assure you, believe me, this Kaguta that you're seeing helping Kiir, Kaguta is more knowledgeable about the issue of Equatoria than even Kiir himself. One day, if he changes, then the Dinkas will find out it's really difficult for you to live in Equatoria anymore. يكون الموضوع بتاعنا ده كبير 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 الموضوع ده لسه ما يتحل. We've not sat down with the rest of South Sudanese as Equatorians. We've not sat down with them so that we can accept that we're part of South Sudan. Deep in our hearts, we've still not acknowledged this government of crooks. We're not talking for that. We are not talking because we want something from it, but we want the future of our people. We want the stability of our people. We want the prosperity of our people. Because if the issues of Equatoria are not addressed, Equatorians will not be stable, Equatorians will not prosper in their lands, and Equatorians may likely lose their land. Like the issue now that the Zande and the Balanda, that conflict is not theirs. That conflict is created because that region was stable, that region has resources. So they created the issue. And that's not going to be the end. They're going to create more and more in every part of Equatoria if we don't really look at it from a bigger picture, that these people are the problem other than the Equatorians themselves. By destroying us, that's when they will win. But if they cannot destroy us, and we're intact together the way our great-grandfathers used to live together, someone from Kakwa cannot come and make destruction in the land of Fojulu, or somebody from Fojulu land cannot go and make destruction in the land of Kuku, or somebody from Kuku land cannot make destruction in the land of Madi. Like that, even to the land of Moro, Avukaya, Azande, we don't move. We had a system of governance that our chiefs knows how to control our borderlines, and we can intermarry, but we cannot go and create problems to each other. We need to go back there. We need to understand that we are in this game together. We are brothers and Equatorians and one nation and one people.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, Iko, which is an important angle, is that Equatorians, all these different social groups, lived as sovereign entities. They existed as sovereign entities, sovereign communities in their ancestral lands. And there was always knowledge of where your boundaries are, who are your neighbors, and we have not seen a history of conflict between these different social groups. Everybody respectful of the other. And also over time, because of the marriages that took place, people have gelled together, Equatorians have melted into Equatorial identity. And that's why it's very difficult and indistinguishable. You know, Equatorians are indistinguishable from one another. They, you know, their social behaviors, their social welfare organizations, they come together, they just, you know, melt and you know, align to themselves as Equatorians. يعني ما في فروقات وما في you know زي ما بيقولوا يعني ما في you know ما في حدة بتاعت مثلا مشاكل وخلافات وكونفليكتس صراعات قبلية وكده. احنا ما عندنا لحد كبير في الاستوائية. يعني there may be fringes, some isolated cases where sometimes you find, you know, that there's a conflict, but that conflict is not is not terminal. It's not violent, to the point of displacing, communities and so on. ما حصل. يعني هو قاعدين نشوفوها هسه في الاستوائية بدأت تحصل. نشوف displacement that Zandis together with the Balanders to, POCs, في the centers of protection, protection of civilian sites being constructed. This is alien to Equatoria. This is new. عشان كده احنا بنشوف انه this is an imported conflict and there is evidence to support that. فسوري المقاطعة, but you can conclude your narrative and give the opportunity to Rafael and James. تفضل. There you go.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hakim. Yeah, ده الموضوع اللي نحن نشوف كإيكواتوريانز. Our ancestors lived together. We intermarried. أنا قدامك أنا عندي دم تمورو في جسمي. وأنا فجلاوي. So there is nothing that you might have heard that Fojuluma Morukan in the conflict. Well, Fojuluma Kakwa in the conflict. Well, Fojuluma Nyangwara in the conflict. Well, Fojuluma Kuku in the conflict. Fojuluma Bari in the conflict. There is nothing like that. If there are small disputes, tell the two families from this side or from that side, those things are just minor that can be solved within the limits of headmen in the communities. For us, they las Jiblena, Mashakilas, and destroy Equatoria because they're jealous of Equatoria. They're jealous of the way we live. They don't like. They're using terms like patriotic. When you talk of Equatoria, that it doesn't ring into their ears good. It seems when you talk of Equatoria, it's just like you're hating them. When you talk of Equatoria, you're not nationalistic. What's nationalism has to do with Equatoria? We're already a nation by ourselves. Nationalism taking the Junuba lazim to Jiblena go even kill my Junub Zali Sama Dakal for Dom Nazatas. Now that South Sudan is a country.
Yeah.
Madakalena sees that of the and you want to tell us nationalism. You want to tell us patriotism. Not Farid Sakino, Haramia Kulia Makuma trying to preach us some slogans that we don't really, they don't really even understand it.
حكومة حرامية مش كده؟
كله حرامية ساكت.
ما في مساعدة.
في شنو في جوبا دي ما كله حرامية يا حكومة. Now bringing conflicts to our people. Equatorians, be careful and open your minds and be conscious. Just a brain there, you couldn't why. We need to be conscious people to understand our problems and the implications of policies that are brought from somewhere, imported and given to us. Well, thank you, Brother Hakim and the rest. Yeah. Mike to you, Brother James.
شكرا ايكو. الاخ جيمس كان انت موجود. اتفضل. اتفضل اخذ الميكروفون.
شكرا كثير دكتور حكيم واخواني الكرام معنا هنا دكتورة ألما والدكتورة كوريا، أستاذ أيكو، أستاذ رفائيل، وكل الناس اللي بيستمعونا من أهلنا الأحباب الإيكواتوريان. نحن قضايا جنوب السودان دي قاعدين يربطوها بالوطنية كما قال أخوي أستاذ أيكو. الوطنية ما عندها علاقة إذا بقى في معاني الوطنية مفترض يكون لساوث السودان كله، يعني كل ساوث السودان المعيار الوطني يكون موحد حتى المعيار القومي. ليه يما مثلا تحصل أحداث مثلا معينة في الإقليم الاستوائي بيقوم يقولوا لا نحن نخاطب القضية دي على المستوى القومي، وإذا في مشاكل شبيهة يقوم يقولوا مثلا نحل على المستوى المحلي. هنا في كونتراديكشن للمعاني ذاته بتاع الوطنية والقومية، وده شيء واضح. لكن الوقت جاء بالنسبة لأخواننا الإيكواتوري، شعب إيكواتوري العظيم، الشعبي اللي عنده كامل المجد والاعتزاز من بدري، يعني ما تاريخ جديد، حتى قبل تشكيل السودان الموحد اللي نحن كنا عايشين منه، طلعنا منه في 2011. والبيوري انه في استهداف لحياه بتاعت الايكاتوريوم من ناحيه النسيج الاجتماعي. مكونات قاعده مع بعض آلاف السنين ما حصلت بيناتهم مشاكل، والمشاكل اللي بقت تحصل كلها مصدره وقاعد تتم بفعل شنو؟ فاعل. واقرب مشكله هسه حاصله ونحن شايفينها، ومن هنا نطرحها كاي بي اي تحالف شعب الإيكاتوري لضحايا النزاع الحاصل في طنبرة من الطرفين، وأخواننا الزاندة اللي هو أصحاب الأرض الأساسية المتعارف عليها. وده هو التغيير الديموغرافي نحن في جنوب السودان بقينا نشوفه، بالذات موجه تجاه الإيكاتوريين اللي هو بيحاول تغيير الخارطة المعروفة أنه الحدود بين المكونات، المعيار بتاع الريفرنس بتاع اللي هو جانوري the 1st 1956، وإذا في تغيير مفترض يشمل كل أبناء جنوب السودان عشان ينظروا فيه، ونحن ما محتاجين لده. الأحداث بتاعت طنبرة أو يامبيا أو في كل الغرب الاستوائي هناك، دي سياسة بتاعت فرق تسد أصلا، دارين يفتنوا المكونات مع بعض عشان يمرروا أجندة سياسية، وهي حاصلة الليلة في طنبرة، بكرة حتكون في كايا، وبعد بكرة حتكون في أكاتوس، بعد شوية في كابويتا، حتكون ماشية كده لأنه الناس دي طابخين الحتة دي. يلا مسؤوليتك أنت شنو كإيكاتوري؟ أنت لازم تواجه المشاكل دي، والمشاكل دي مواجهتها بتتم عبر التنظيمات أو الجمعيات الأهلية نفسها عشان تكون رأي عام، عشان الأهداف زي دي ما تطبق على أرض الواقع. يس أنا أجري الصوت الشعبي مهم، لكن إذا ما اتربط مع أو يتكامل مع الجهود الأهلية والتنظيمية، ما أظن أنه يكون في نجاح. نحن يا جماعة نفتح عيننا، والرسائل دي نسجلها ونحطها في اليوتيوب وكل الوسائل بتاعت الميديا الاجتماعية دي عشان الناس تتناقش الحاجات دي، ان احنا نوقف المادة. واذا في جهة جات قالت لكم مثلا القومية ان احنا نراعيها، اوف كورس الانسان بيراعي قومية بلده، لكن اذا انا شفت نفسي في تهديد وحياتي في خطر، انا لازم اخاطب القضايا حقتي دي في الحتة انا قاعد فيها، والاخرين لو دارين يشيلوها از ان اكزامبل يشيلوها يطبقوها في نفسهم ذاته، ليه لا؟ لكن ما ممكن انا اكون عايش في وجع انت تقول لي لا اسكت. الوجع ده نخاطبه عبر الوسائل القوميه، وهو وين القوميه والوطنيه ذاته؟ ساوث السودان ما في دوله هناك اصلا، احنا عايشين قانون الغابه، ونحن نكون صاحين مع الاجنده زي دي، ما نخليها تمشي كله. ونحن من هنا اي بي كتنظيم او ككتله سياسيه مجتمعيه سميها زي ما انت ما داير، نحن بنناشد الاخوه الايكاتوريين انه نحن نرفع نسبه الوعي السياسي والاجتماعي عشان نوقف الماده. ما دار ارجع للتاريخ كثير، اخوتنا دكتوره علمة شرحت التاريخ بكل طريقه واضحه، وايكو برضه تتكلم فيه، استاذ ايكو واستاذه ماجرت برضه تكلم، الدكتور حكيم اوف كورس ورافائيل. انا حقيق في الحته دي، بس النداء انا حدي النداء السياسي، يعني احنا لازم نشتغل، نتوغل في كل التنظيمات الاهليه دي، نوريهم انه في خطر داهم. الخطر لما يكون جايك انت لازم تشتغل، ما تقعد في البيت تكون متكئ على الارائك تقول اجا ده بيحن نفسه. ما في حاجه بيحن نفسه unless انك انت تشارك المشاركه الفعليه. عشان كده اسمه اي بي اي اللي هو تحالف الشعب، ان احنا نستمد الشرعيه بتاعتنا من الشعب. نداء الشعب هو بيقوم يتكامل مع التنظيم، عشان كده عن طريقه انت حتلقى حلولك ان شاء الله. شكرا دكتور حكيم، انا حقيق فيه.
يا كتر خيرك يا أستاذ جيمس. فالوقت حان برضو للأخت رفايلة. الأخت رفايلة يلا، يو ويلكم. دينا الناريتيف بتاعتك وتعقيب بتاعتك على الكلام اللي اتقال، وبرضو رؤية بتاعتك والحاجات اللي انت بتشوفه ان احنا نركز على، والرسالة بتاعتك للاستوائية.
السلام، نرحب بكم تاني بالجديد ونواصل في الحديث في المواضيع الثلاثة المختارة. وأنا بقول إن يعني الكلام اللي أنتوا قلتوه ده كله صح، يعني اللي أنا بزيده ما أكثر من ذاك، إنه بالفعل Equatoria is being under threat under existential threat. كل اللي قاعد يحصل ده it's been by design. We all understood what the aim and objective of these two bully parties are, the IO and the IG. They are just together, and their formula is one: divide and rule, or divide and conquer. Their conquerors is our land first, and for them to get grip of our land is to destroy our social fabric by inventing problems from nowhere else for people to fight among themselves. And now the fighting is got to a higher level in a way that they are using sophisticated weapons against innocent and vulnerable people. As soon as they achieve the objective of displacing the innocent people, they will gather them in the POC. That POC, once our people are in it, there's no way they can come out of it quickly. Now we've seen it with the Nuer in Juba, when we've seen it in the other parts of South Sudan, and it's happening right now with the Azande and Balanda in Tombora. And for us to overcome all these hurdles, we have to stand on our ground. We have to really, really open our mind and accept that if we do not stand up for ourselves, this is going to be difficult for us in future to reclaim our land. It is just a matter of awareness and knowing where our rights are and stand firm to claim it. These people have evil plan against us, and their aim is just our land, not the people. The land that they have leased out for investors, and now they're trying their best to let the investors come in. And for the investors to come, they cannot do that in presence of the native people on the land. So they have to clear people out of their land by all means. And as EPA, our duty, are we really going to give up just simple and easily like that for our land to be taken away from us? Our land is our existence. It's our existence and existence for our future generation. If we don't stand up for it now, that means we let our future generation down. So it's our duty now to stand firm and show our existence. We have to prove our existence there, and we are not letting go of our rights. This is all what I can add.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you رفايلة. Thank you. في قضايا كثيرة طبعا، لكن احنا طبعا عاوزين نختصر الموضوع ده وما حنطيل خالص عشان نجي نتواصل في حلقة تانية. But before we do that احنا عندنا طبعا الكلمة الأخيرة في الحناية في الركن الثاني من الحوار ده، الركن بتاع التداعيات and the consequences of retaining Salva Kiir to power in 2025. We're saying if Kiir comes back to power as the president of the country in 2025, because elections طبعا هتكون في النهاية بتاعت 2024 زي ما بيقال، وإن كان الانتخابات ده ما بتستوفي الشروط بتاعت الانتخابات. بمعنى آخر what is being planned is a rigged election, a sham election in the country. And these elections will bring back Kiir to power. So فالموقف بتاعتنا شنو كاستوائية؟ هل احنا راضين بأنه سلفا كير يعود للسلطة ويكون رئيس بتاع الدولة بتاع جنوب السودان؟ ده ما حيكون على حسابنا؟ ما حسي احنا شفنا الفترة اللي فاتت دي من 2005 لغاية حسي 2024 مرينا بالحرب الأهلية. هو اللي جاب الحرب الأهلية في جنوب السودان، لأنه ما قدر يتعاطى مع القضايا والمشاكل بتاعت الدولة بطريقة ديمقراطية. يعني حتى داخل الاس بي ال ام ذاته ما عندهم حاجة بيسموها ديمقراطية. يعني حتى انه انت ترد لزول بالحجة ما موجود. هم حتى وان كان يختلفوا كقيادات سياسية داخل المنظومة بتاعت الاس بي ال ام، ففشلوا في انه يديروا الخلاف ده بطريقة بيحمي المصالح بتاعت الدولة، بيحمي المواطنين ضد الخروج الى شنو؟ الى الحرب الاهليه. فشلوا في اداره بتاعت الحوار داخل الاس بي ال، لانه اساسا سلفا كير بقى ديكتاتور وجنرال، ما بيعرف وما بيفهم حاجه في شنو؟ ما بيفهم حاجه في ال في ال sorry about that, let me just stop this one first. Yeah, so ما بيفهم في قضيه بتاعت شنو؟ قضيه بتاعت اداره بتاعت اختلافات داخل منظومه بتاعت الاس بي ال ام كشنو؟ كحركه سياسيه. عشان كده احنا في النهايه وقعنا، مشينا في حرب اهليه، لانه في واحد في زمام بتاعت السلطه ما بيفهم اداره بتاعت الدوله ولا بيفهم اداره بتاعت الحزب او الحركه السياسيه اللي هو قاعد يقودها. فده زول ما عنده شنو؟ قال فاقد الشيء لا يعطيه اصلا. العرب يقول فاقد الشيء لا يعطيه اصلا. If you don't have it, you can't give it. If he doesn't have democratic credentials, he cannot be the leader for a democracy or democratic transformation. ده الحاصل. فإذا كان سلفا كير فشل في إدارة بتاع الخلافات الداخلية في الاس بي ال ام، حسي شفتوا عمل شنو؟ قال هو يبقى شنو؟ هو الوحيد يبقى شنو؟ الفلاج بيرر بتاع الاس بي ال ام. شوف ما ده العقلية ذاته بتاعت الدكتاتورية. بدل ما كان هسي 13 سنة بعد الخلافات اللي حصلت، لانه كان في فشل في الاداره بتاع العمل الديمقراطي او الخلافات الديمقراطيه داخل الحزب في 2024، لسه قاعد يقول انه هو يكون الوحيد الممثل لشنو؟ للرئاسه الحنايه يعني الاسم شنو ده؟ the nominee for president in the SPLM. He should be the only person and he should be endorsed by everyone including Equatorians. And he could not tolerate even the idea that there should be two competitors within the SPLM to address it among themselves and subject themselves to a democratic process. ده ما عنده، ده ما في vocabulary بتاعته، ما موجود في المنهج بتاع سلفا كير. ميزان الديمقراطية كويس ومفاهيم بتاعت الديمقراطية ما موجودة أساسا في داخل الاس بي ال ام، ولا موجودة في عقل بتاعت شنو وقيم بتاعت سلفا كير. خليك من انه لما يجي بقى يبقى رئيس يعني حيغير شنو؟ ما حيغير اي حاجه بالوضوح، ما حيغير اي حاجه. He will not change anything. The SPLM failed to stand up as a democratic institution. The leadership of the SPLM has failed to manage political differences democratically within its own premises, and the country went to civil war. And now Kiir is offering himself as the sole bearer, the sole, SPLM flag bearer. And he doesn't like the idea of democracy. He doesn't like the idea of a democratic process to which he should be subjected. He just wants to be the sole flag bearer. شفت كيف؟ معناه ال SPLM ما يتغير. And then you can never expect SPLM to be leading the democratic process in South Sudan. That the SPLM will lead democratic transformation in South Sudan. So do not expect that if Salva Kiir comes back to power, he will forget about political decrees, the decrees that he's used to. He knows nothing else. وما بيعرف أكتر من كده. He doesn't know anything else. He only knows how to issue decrees. And not him, is actually there's a deep state. الدولة العميقة هي اللي بتصدر القرارات. هي اللي بتصدر السياسات. Salva Kiir just, signs it. who معلوم يعني you think Salva Kiir, he can't even speak for himself at times. he cannot present himself as credible, as having a view on issues. Now he cannot even deliberate for long. He doesn't have the competency. وبالتالي there is a deep state. في دولة عميقة حوله اللي يقوم بالعمل الحراكي السياسي والتنظيمي وكده، ودي دولة طبعا بتستفيد من شنو؟ الدولة العميقة ده هي هو بتاخد الكونتراكتس بتاعت الحكومة، هي هو بتصرف في قروش بتاعت الدولة. هسه الدولة العميقة القريب ده مشوا في الكويت، في هنا في دبي، and what they did was they got a loan for 13 billion. ده احنا لسه ما اتكلمنا فيه. ال 13 بليون ده كله شنو؟ الناس زي سلفا كير عاوز القروش دي تجي عشان يحافظوا بقى على انفسهم في السلطه، عشان يستدام الوجود بتاعتهم في السلطه. هم عاوزين they want to actually preserve themselves in power, and the money will help them to do that for the next 10-20 years. That is the plan. That is what they are aiming to do. لانه هسه الاقتصاد بتاعت الدوله ذاته تعبان. There's no money. There's no economy that is generating income for the country, right? There is none. And people are not even being paid their salaries. So why do you go then and go and get 13 billion from, a venture capitalist, right? And sell the land, sell the oil resources and everything. And you have not proven yourself to be a credible governor or a credible statesman who can actually manage the affairs of the country. معناه القروش ده انت عاوز تجيب القروش عشان تحملوا نفسك في السلطه. انت عاوز تجيب القروش عشان تبيعوا زمم بتاعت الناس. انت عاوز تجيب قروش عشان تعمل بول الملابس الاحمر اللي تطبع له تي شيرت، these red nonsensical red hats and t-shirts and blouses and so on، توظفها وتصرفها للناس بالمجان بدون ما حتى الناس ذاته يقدموا تبرعات عشان تخش في خزينه بتاعت SPLM عشان يقدر يصرفوها في قضايا بتاعت العمل السياسي. ما في حاجه بالشكل زي ده. الناس بيلقوا قروشها من وين؟ سلفا كير بيلقى قروشها من وين؟ قاعد يصرفوا على SPLM ده كله من الحكومه، من public office. فده الحاصل. اليوم. ما بالك كان سلفا كير رجع في السلطه في 2024 هيعمل شنو؟ هيعمل ده واكثر من ده. هيكون زياده على ما يعمل، زياده على ما قاعد يعمله حس اليوم بهذا الوضوح، بصريح العباره ده الحاجات اللي سلفا كير هيعمل. فهم عاوزين 13 بليون ده to keep them in power for the next 10 years to 20 years. ما ده الحقيقه. Who controls this money? It is the deep state. The deep state wants to continue to milk the country. فهم بيشوفوا انه وجود سلفا كير واستدامه بتاعت سلفا كير في السلطه بيخدم مصلحه بتاعت الديب ستيت، بيصلح يعني it will serve the interests بتاعت الدوله العميقه ده. كويس؟ الدوله العميقه ده طبعا is a Jain state, the Jain Council of Elders والجيش، القيادات بتاعت الجيش المستفيدين من الفوضى دي وكده. فسلفا كير is a convenient suitable head يستخدموه عشان يمرروا الاجندات بتاعته. فده الحاصل. فما بالك احنا كاستوائيين نقول انه احنا عاوزين سلفا كير يجي يبقى رئيس ثاني يفوضه حتى عن طريق بتاع elections مزور. احنا عاوزين نفوضه عشان نجيبه في السلطه. انتوا نسيتوا الانتهاكات بتاعت حقوق بتاعت شعب بتاعتنا، المجازر اللي ارتكبت في لوكيليري، في كاجوكيجي، في غانغالا، في اغورو، في نيمولي، في مانغالا. انتوا نسيتوا الكلام ده كله يا استوائيين، نسيتوا الكلام ده وعاوزين تعيدوا وتجيبوا سلفا كير في السلطه ثاني في 2025. ده الحاجه اللي انتوا عاوزينه. انتوا عاوزين شنو؟ فدي التداعيات. These are the consequences of the elections in 2024. وهسي SPLM in government is doing everything. He's doing everything to rig the elections, to pay its way through rigged elections وbribing and all of that. ما عاوزين يتخلوا عن السلطة. فهنا ما نكون طرف كاستوائية، ما نكون طرف لأنه إحنا نجيب سلفا كير تاني باك للباور للسلطة. كويس؟ even if they rig the elections. عشان كده إحنا ماشيين على مفترق الطرق زي ما قاعدين نقوله تكرارا ومرارا. إحنا هسه الاستوائية ماشية لمفترق بتاعت الطرق. الشعب بتاعتنا ما عنده صوت. قاعدين يديروا الصوت بتاعت الاستوائية من الكواليس. المرة اللي فات جابوا لك عادل هسي شالوه برضه، وهسي قاموا جابوا شنو؟ جادلة ده حل طلع لكم هسي كاليستو. ده أول تست بالنسبة له، ذات أول تست وتجربة بالنسبة له. ما هو بس جابوه لزوه خطوه قال انت خلاص اكون هناك. وانا شفت في بعض الاستوائيين بدأوا كتبوا خطابات بتاعت تهنئه. شفت كيف خطابات بتاعت تهنئه للبريزيدنت سالفا كير انه يا اخي they are congratulating جادلا for winning the confidence of the president. يعني شوف الوضع في الاستوائيه وصل. شوف الاستوائيين بقى قاعدين يفكروا كيف praising the fact that انه جادلا has won the confidence of the president. يعني شوف ده بقى تمنيات بتاعت الاستوائيين انه شنو؟ to win the confidence of منو؟ of سالفا كير. يا بابا احنا بقينا وين؟ ده الكلام بتاعت شنو؟ كلام شنو؟ ده كلام فارغ. دي معناه احنا كاستوائيين ما عندنا تحكم في المصير بتاعتنا. احنا بقينا هنا في رياح، في اتجاه بتاعت رياح ما بتتسهيها السفن يا اخي الاستوائيين زي ما العرب بيقولوا. كويس؟ فالكلام ده خطر شديد جدا بالنسبه للاستوائيه. كون انه سالفا كير يعود للسلطه في 2025 وبدعم بتاعت استوائيين، ده جريمه عديل كده. احسن احنا نجيب نقول حتى ما عاوزين الالكشنز زي ما استاذ كاليستو قال. ما في حكومه، وده كلام اللي احنا قاعدين نقوله دائما وتكرارا ومرارا. ما في حكومه في جنوب السودان. انت ماشي تصوت لمنو؟ تصوت لسالفا كير عشان احنا نستمر في الدوامه ده. احسن احنا نجيب كاستوائيين نقول لا احنا وصلنا موتره بتاعت الطرق، الدوله ده لازم احنا نعيد النظر فيه ذاته. احنا هنتعايش كيف زي ما ايكو قال جبال. احنا ما جلسنا تحت عشان نقدر نصل لقناعه والاجماع بتاعت انه احنا عاوزين نتعايش بالسلم توجذر تحت نظام احنا بنتفق عليه، تحت نظام احنا يا هو بنختاره كشعب. السياده عندنا هنا كشعب. السياده ما في ايدي بتاعت حد تاني، السياده ده في حد فينا احنا كشعب. نجيب سوا ونقول انه احنا عاوزين نظام كذا 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 وده الدستور بتاعتنا كده. حتى عاوزين يمشوا للانتخابات بدون دستور انا عشان يمشوا الاجنده بتاعته. احنا ما طرف في الكلام ده السؤال هوي، احنا ما طرف في الكلام كله. وده هتبقى جريمه بالنسبه لنا كاستوائيين عشان نجيب سالفا كير ثاني في السلطه. حسي بدأوا يعملوا الماشينيشنز بتاعتهم ده، يبيعوا الزمن كويس عشان الناس بس تقول انه وي اندوس كير. يا جماعه عليكم الله، انتوا يو ونت تو اندوس كير بالفشل الذريع ده كله والدوله العميقه اللي خلفه. انتوا يو ونت تو اندوس كير عشان يستمر والدوله العميقه ده تستمر. ما سالفا كير ده بس واجهه. It's just a front end. There's a deep state behind it. It's a deep state that is running the economy to benefit families, to benefit ناس زي ناس بول وات، بول ميل، وده اللي ماسكين الشركات اللي بتبني وبتسمي وبتدعي عنها بتبني الطرق. So all the money is poured towards infrastructure because they control the companies that run the contracts that engage in construction. وبالتالي هيصرفوا زي ما عاوزين. حسي كان قريب ده ما في واحد حتى واحد دنكاوي تاني كتب جواب خدتها في الببليك دومين انه يا اخي there is a lot of concentration of power in the hands of Bolmel to the extent that he himself has advised Bolmel to to vacate some of these powers لمصلحه بتاعت استمراريه بتاعت كير ذاته انه يا اخي لانه بولميل حسي بقى شنو ذكر انه بولميل اول حاجه بقى شنو جنرال في الجيش وفي نفس الوقت عنده مسؤوليه بتاعت what they call special projects وهو المسؤول منه وده ما في فوقه مساعده من البرلمان ولا من اي حد وبرضه هو شنو هو في الناشونال سيكيورتي سيرفيس كويس من قيادات بتاعت ناشونال سيكيورتي سيرفيس 3 سلطات سياسيه معناها الدوله ده في ايده بتاعت ما في ايده بتاعت بولميل. So who is signing these agreements? Who comes up with this idea بتاعت agreement بتاعت 13 بليون وقال يمشي كلها في infrastructure development projects؟ ده منو؟ في مجموعه ما بنسموه الدوله العميقه والدوله بتاعت الجين كونسل اوف ايلدرز هي بتحرك الدوله من خلف الكواليس وسلفاكير ده بس فرونت اند يعني دي واجهه لا اكثر لانه حتى الواجهه ده ما عنده عقل ما عنده مبادره وهنا بيلعب دور مرسوم له انه انت تبقى الرئيس وانت تمضى وتمضى واحنا بنسير الامور من خلف الكواليس. ده الاتفاق القائم بين سلفاكير والدوله العميقه ده لمصلحه بتاعت استدامه بتاعت سلفاكير والفاميلي بتاعته كده. عشان كده انتوا شايفين الفوضى الحاصل في الجنوب ما في elections ما في فري فير elections في جنوب السودان. حتى الاتفاقيه ما بيسمى بالاتفاقيه المنشطه Revitalized Agreement for Resolution of Conflict in South Sudan is meaningless. It's not being implemented. ورياض مشار مستفيد اساسا هو بيشوف انه افضل له انه يكون في الزخم بتاعت الفوضى ده في الزخم بتاعت الفشل ده عشان هو يستفيد والسلفاكير يستفيد وكان استمروا بهذا الشكل فبها ما بيهمهم as long as someone they are in power that's okay. لانه كان في امكان بتاع رياض مشار ممكن هيقول انه ده فوضى يا اخوانا احنا حاولنا نطبق الاتفاقيه والاتفاقيه فشلت وما في مقدره وما في political will on the part of the other party to implement the agreement. هسه احنا وصلنا له خلاص احنا we will resign from the government because we don't want to be a burden on the people of South Sudan. Let the people of South Sudan determine what's the future. عشان نشوف سلفاكير هيعمل الاتفاقيه ده كيف هيدير الاتفاقيه ده ويحاول ينفذ الاتفاقيه باي اسلوب. لكن رياض مشار ما عنده مقدره ولا عنده شجاعه في انه يتخذ هذا الموقف الادبي والاخلاقي. He cannot because he is compromised. He wants to benefit. يعني عشان كده عاوزين يلعب لعبه بتاعتهم في طنبره وفي الاستوائيه. منخاتين انفسهم هو البديل لسلفاكير. كلكم ما بدايه كلكم الاثنين ما بدايه. الشعب هو البديل. الشعب هو اللي بيكون عنده الكلمه الاخيره والقاطعه الكلمه النهائيه في الكلام. عشان كده احنا كاستوائيين نلم انفسنا ونجيب كشعب واحد موحد ونقول احنا عندنا صوت كشعب بتاع الاستوائيه وعايزين نتكلم باسم بتاع الاستوائيه والمقوله بتاعتنا والكلام بتاعنا اللي احنا بنقوله في الاستوائيه هو كده ABCD. احنا ما متفقين مع النظام القائم. احنا نرجع لاعاده صياغه بتاعت دوله بتاعت شنو؟ دوله بتاعت اللي هو البيسفول coexistence. نشوف we have to go back to the drawing board and we have to agree how we coexist. أنا coexistence ده حاسس ما له مصلحة بتاعت الاستوائية. التعايش ده ما له مصلحة بتاعت الاستوائية ولا بيخدم المصالح الاستراتيجية بالنسبة للشعب الاستوائي والجيل الاستوائي القادم. ما بيخدم كله ما بيخدم. عشان كده احنا نكون واعيين استوائية تكون واعية انه عوده واعاده سلفاكير للسلطه لسلطه الحكم في جنوب السودان ده خطر كبير جدا بالنسبه للاستوائيه. ده هيكون سلب الحقوق بتاعت الاستوائيه. وده هيكون سلب للرأي وكلمة بتاعت الشعب الاستوائي بهذه العبارة صريحة يعني بصريح العبارة زي ما بيقول. ده الكلام الحاصل. احنا كان ما فاهمين الكلام ده نفهمه هسي. احنا ماشيين الدولة دي ماشية لوين. فدي بعض النقاط اللي احنا قلنا لازم نوصل الرسالة ده بالنسبة للشعب بتاعتنا في الاستوائية عشان الناس تفهم والناس تنظم نفسها وتشوف المستقبل بتاع جنوب السودان بعد 2024 وتابعوا الحكومة ده عاوز تعمل شنو أو تستديم نفسها في السلطة. يعني they want to continue to preserve the existence at our expense and to be the leaders of government in South Sudan so that they can get away with all of their injustices, all of their crimes. ما في زول حاسبهم وهكذا. وهلا احنا في الاستوائيه بقينا الجزء بتاعت الدوله ده عشان القيادات ما تكون تحت محاسبه والرقابه بتاعت الشعب. Is that what we want? Is that what we want as the people of Equatoria? That we want leaders that are not accountable to us, that we cannot fire and hire? So when are we going to hire and fire our leaders? We have to wait for another 30 years, or another 50 years to do that? If that is what South Sudan wants, that's not what Equatoria wants. Because that's not Equatoria. We are accountable people. We are democratic. وإحنا عاوزين نتواكب مع ناس بمقدرات بتاعتنا كاستوائية، بكفاءات بتاعتنا كاستوائية، بكياننا ككيان استوائي، شعب موحد وشعب عنده تطلع لمستقبل أفضل بالنسبة للاستوائية لكله بتاع جنوب السودان. We don't want to live as a hostage in South Sudan. We don't want to be a hostage in South Sudan. Sovereignty is vested in our people. السيادة عند الشعب والتفويض لازم يجي من الشعب، وده الحل النهائي والوحيد، مش نجيب سلفا كير تاني للسلطة. احنا عاوزين نقدم سيادة بتاعت الشعب الاستوائي في الاستوائية، واحنا عندنا الرأي ذاته في كيفية بتاعت التعايش. النظام بتاعت الحكم اللي احنا عاوزينه شنو؟ احنا ما فصلنا في القضايا دي. الشعب بتاعتنا ما قال الكلمة بتاعتها. Our people have not said. Our people did not have a say on these matters yet. And then we want to go and bring Salva Kiir. Do you think Salva Kiir is going to create a civic space for our people to have these kind of views and to determine the direction of the country? ما هيحصل. بتاتا ما بيحصل. So that is the simple message that we wanted to share. كان في قضايا تانية كنا عايزين نتكلم فيه. عايزين نتطرق للقضية بتاعت existential threat that is facing Equatoria, and so the struggle for existential continuity بتاعت Equatoria. اللي احنا بنسموه existential struggle of Equatoria for liberty, for freedom, and for democracy. ده احنا ما اتكلمنا فيه لسه. واحنا كنا برضه عايزين نتطرق لبعض الاحداث اللي حصلت في الساحه السياسيه في جنوب السودان. يعني مثلا احنا شفنا كان قريب ده ياو resigned from SPLM and government and made a damning statement. And you all remember, we as EPA, we made a comment and issued a statement on that in terms of agreement to register our agreement with the condemnation letter that Yao, which was more to do with the sponsored bigotry, the state-sponsored bigotry of the SPLM. كويس؟ وقضايا مهمة جدا يعني. Fundamental issues were raised in the letter of condemnation of SPLM and government by Yao. And then soon later, he was put under pressure to go back to SPLM and government. So what are the implications of all of this? What are the drivers? دي القضايا اللي احنا عاوزين نفهمها لانه عندها برضه شنو؟ عندها تداعيات مهمه بالنسبه لنا. احنا لازم يعني we have to understand the implications of these kind of developments. شفت كيف؟ وبعدين المحور الثاني، المحور بتاعت التحالف بين الاستوائيه والاداريه بتاعت البيبور. More specifically the people of Greater Pibor, that the unity purpose between the people of Equatoria and the people of Greater Pibor administrative area, because they're all facing an existential threat from the same actors. That's one. And secondly, الحل النهائي شو؟ What is our strategy? الاستراتيجي بتاعتنا ال SPLM IO، الاستراتيجي بتاعتنا انه نكون في ال SPLM and government، ولا الاستراتيجي بتاعتنا يكون اكثر من كده؟ لانه ده هو الاكتر ذاته فشلت الدوله. فكيف احنا نتخلى عن our strategic objectives, our blueprint, in order to become a hostage to SPLM IO or to SPLM and government? How can we be a hostage to SPLM and government, to SPLM and IO? That makes us a hostage to SPLM, right? This variation of SPLM in government, SPLM in opposition, SPLM FDs and whatnot, SPLM real one and another one is imaginary and all of this, ده كلها كلام فارغ. ال SPLM already ثبت فشل بتاعته. It has failed the country. It has disintegrated the social fabric of the country. So how can we go and make ourselves hostage to one or the other? Are we not capable of coming with the third alternative that is people-driven? What is our blueprint? What's our strategy? Our strategy should not be SPLM is the end point, or the SPLM IO is the end point, or the SPLM and government is. What's the difference between them? They're all hegemonic. They're the ones compromising around this so-called agreement for resolution of conflict in South Sudan, which is a power sharing between these elites. Nothing more. It is not the power sharing between the people. It's the power sharing between these elites in IO and in government. Is the major contenders. طيب الفرق فيهم شنو؟ Why do we make ourselves hostage to them? That's why الخيار بتاعتنا كشعب استوائي لازم يكون واضح. والقوميات المتحدة, all these national groups that are being persecuted, including the people of Greater Pibor, their future and destiny is one with the people of Equatoria. And let's be clear about that. That's what we want. If we unite our people, we stand as the people, then we are in a better position to see where the enemy is coming from, who is standing in our way, who wants to deprive us of the say of the people, who wants to do that. فدي القضايا الأساسية، دي المحور الأساسي اللي احنا نتكلم فيه. وده ما اتطرقنا عليه. We have not delved into this in this brief discussion here today, but there will come an opportunity when we'll be able to address some of these issues. So I want to thank my colleagues, the panelists here with us for their inputs, interjections, and for giving and sharing their insight with our people. And I hope that this discussion here today is beneficial to our public in Equatoria and in all of South Sudan, that these are critical issues that can set this country to move in the right direction. We cannot just be satisfied with becoming hostage to one party or the other. We have to define the third way, which will preserve our existence, our identity, and secure the liberties of people, secure the freedoms of our people, that the people themselves have a final say on these matters. I will thank you all, and I will stop here. Maybe just round up 1-2 minutes summary from each one of you, and then we can bring this to a close, and then we'll continue to raise our voice again in some of the other issues that we have not been able to address during this dialogue. So بديكم الفرصة وممكن يعني تقدموا آخر remarks and then we can close the show. اتفضلوا. Alma, if you want to go first. Maybe you're muted, so unmute yourself and then you can speak. Okay, Alma doesn't seem to be there. Kulia, okay.
Okay, yeah. I don't have much to say because it has all been said. Just to say to our people that they should be united. And, you know, unity is the only thing that will help Equatorians to fight, because unity is stronger than guns. Unity is stronger than, you know, having to go and plan bad things on other communities. Unity is something which is really like a two-edged sword, because with unity you will build trust, and at the same time you will be unbreakable, you will be strong. This is all what I can say. Equatorians have got to unite, and Equatorians have got to start looking for answers instead of just following. They will have to look for answers. They will have to look for the truth, to look for history. We have got many young people. They will have to, you know, even in Google, they can find a lot of stuff. And then they can also ask their elders in the community and elders from across. Say if it's a Zande person, we'll have to also ask from his Balanda side, so that we or she will get a balanced account and not listen only to one person. And the last advice I give to people is that they will have to know that the SPLM, whether IO or IG, is not there for them. It's not there to help them. It's to destroy them. So if they are going to listen to the SPLM, if they are going to, you know, start trusting the SPLM and thinking of it as a government, then they are done. They are really done, because these people are just destroyers. They are there to eat. They are there to loot. They are there to do maximum destruction, so that they will be, because what they are planning is that once South Sudan is completely finished, when they get everything from it, the dry and the green and dry, they will milk it until it's bones. They will throw it and they will go and live outside. This is what they're thinking, that they will live, I don't know, in Dubai or in the other, you know, say USA, or here even in the UK. They will live anywhere because they have got the money, and their children are all well set for another 4 generations, as somebody has put it. So thank you very much. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Alma. Kulia, you want to chip in with your final remarks?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this panel. And it's a great beginning to a series that's going to continue. So this is only just a fraction of what we're going to be talking about. My message to Equatorians is that, like I've said over and over again, there's no government in that place, there's no state. It's just lawlessness, like it's a lawless cartel, and you can see for yourselves now. I mean, I don't even have to go into the evidence. It's all over the internet, you know, so there's nothing there. And that's why it's really, really important for you to come together now and look after yourselves, you know, and talk about what should happen now going forward. So EPA is here. We are not going anywhere. We've seen this coming a long, long time ago. We were formed 4 years ago and we saw this coming. So we're here. We will facilitate any conversations like these, questions, any doubts that you have, and we're going to bring to you information. We'll bring you the history of Equatoria, and we will talk about whatever it is that's happening there, because everybody's so quiet, you know, and we cannot keep quiet. We can't. I think people need to know, so that, you know, the scales can fall off their eyes. And this so-called agreement, you know, I saw it a long time ago. I kept telling people this is no agreement. It's just a bunch of thugs using the law, you know, like legal thuggery to pretend that, you know, there's a law, but no. So really now it has reached a dead end, and there's consequences that are brewing. You know, they're still insisting that, you know, it's relevant, but it's not. You know, so they couldn't even implement their so-called agreement. You know, so now they're forcing elections on people which will be rigged. So and the consequences of that is more trouble for Equatoria, more threat for Equatoria. So we need to be prepared to defend ourselves, to protect yourselves. And it's not about waging war against anybody, it's just protecting yourself. Simple as that. You know, so we need to get together and unite. And so I'm going to end on this note, you know, knowing that we're going to continue this series. Thank you.
Thank you, Akulea. We pass the mic on to Aiko. Aiko Wani, welcome, brother.
Thank you, guys. My fellow Equatorians, no one should deceive you that you should elect them or they want to be re-elected in an office. Which office, by the way, and which government that? شوف ظروفكم في الفترة دي كل all you civil servants, including all those in the army or the organized forces. Do you guys get your salaries? Did you ever ask yourself, you get your salaries in time? And if you're not getting in time, who's stealing that money? Yala harami tani aze jilekum biteriga tani galaki intigabat. Are you going to vote for a thief? You're going to vote for a thief? You guys have to wake up, my brothers and sisters, wake up. Mafi harami tani should be voted. Equatorial at large. Mafi zoli a jilekum for election, got you vote for me. Okay, toys Kir has a lot of toys in Equatoria, in every county, in the toy store, who call themselves Equatorians. These are only toys. Kir is playing with their mind. Kulu haramia. Never vote. You should not be lied to vote, and don't think there is a government there. Now you start using your mind and start to think. These people are against you. This system is not a system that we call a system of governance in South Sudan. Okay? Beredak, Bejifini higher. They have already ruined it. Their economy is now running underwater, and they're trying to find ways just only to exist and have legitimacy in the government so that they can kill more and sell all the lands that the people owns. Fayajama, after Yunkum Zerial. Thank you very much.
Shukran. I like that one, Aiko. Right. ده كله حرامية إنما بقدر elect حرامية نجيبهم نحطهم في حكومة.
ما ممكن.
ما في حكومة ذات. So on that note, I pass the mic on to our sister, Rafaela. Welcome, Rafaela. It's all yours to conclude.
يا أهلا وسهلا، بحييكم للمرة الأخيرة. إنه إحنا سمعنا كتير وكله deliberation اللي وديتوه كله بوري الحقائق عن النظام الحالي في جوبا. فإنه إصرار
رسالة بتاعتك للشعب بتاعتنا الاستوائي، للنسوان، للشباب الاستوائية كشعب، ده أهم حاجة. اتفضل.
أنا بقول لهم إنه يجنبوا الانتخابات دي بأي طريقة. انتخابات الكير عايز يعصر المواطنين بتاع الجنوب عشان ينتخبوه للمرة الثانية يجي في السلطة ده، لا 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 للانتخابات، لا للتصويت، لا للنظام، لا لأي جي. احنا خلاص 13 سنة كفاية، 18 و 19 سنة ده كفاية. احنا ما دارين ندي أي legitimacy للنظام ده عشان يجي في حكم تاني. كفاية منه، كفاية من كير، لا للكير.
شكرا. شكرا Rafaela. On that note, brothers and sisters, my panelists here, I want to thank you all for your time, and this panel will continue to engage with our Equatorial audiences and the general public in South Sudan in the next encounter that will hopefully be convening soon. So on that note, without further ado, I want to thank you on behalf of Equatorial People's Alliance, Hakeem Dario, as the chair of the Equatorial People's Alliance, تحالف بتاع الشعب الاستوائي. بنعتذر لأنه الأخ جيمس كان المفروض يدي برضه commentary في النهاية، لكن اضطرت الظروف أنه هو has to go. So, but this is not the last time. We'll be in contact again. So once more, may God bless you. God bless Equatoria. God bless the people of South Sudan. And until next time, thank you all from EPA. Thank you.